Welcome to episode number 76 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. You know, when you get that breath of fresh air, that's what this interview is. This interview today is with Jacq Fisch. She likes to be called Jacq, so I call her Jacq all throughout the interview, which is one of my favorite names. For those of you that know, I love it. And she is an intuitive writing coach, and she's also the leader of the Write Like a MOFO community. Can we just talk about how cool that name is? Yes. The other thing I do want to share with you quickly is there is a little bit of swearing going on in this interview because we had a good time. So if you have littles around, you might want to pop in your earphones so they don't run away screaming going, Mom. Anyway, that's fun. The other thing I want to let you know about this interview is Jacq is so generous and thoughtful in the way that she shares her journey and how she started this company and how she understood that writing was the true source of joy and happiness for her, and how she could take that love and joy and put that into an actual business. She's really thoughtful. She's really joyful to talk to. And you can hear what a great writer she is in the way that she chooses her words and the way that she shares her stories. What I'd love you to listen for in this specific episode is how our journeys can differ, right? We can be up against all these different changes, all these different things coming at us, and we can think our journey is going to go one way. And as we all know, 2020 sort of taught us that we can lay the best plans we want in the whole world. And sometimes that's just not the way things are going to go. I think we all had to kind of eat that humble pie together. We lost that innocence together. We understood together as a community that we need to be adaptable and we need to understand what change can bring for us and to us, but also what our role is inside of it. And that was a hard lesson for so many of us to learn, is so much change without our permission. And as we come out of that, it's what do we want to change on purpose now? What do we want to change with our own permission? And with that, what I really want to share with you is Jacq's book. It's called Unfussy Life, an Intuitive Approach to Navigating Change. And boy, I don't know who doesn't need that right now. So what Jacq shares in this interview, which is really cool, is how much of an intuitive she actually is. She didn't know that. She didn't realize that until she started writing this book. And through a series of events, isn't that the way things always work? But through a series of events, she realized she actually is intuitive and that she has a lot to share as life has handed her so much change and so many different things to go through, that she has this wisdom inside of her that she shares through the book on how to navigate change, trusting your own intuition. Well, if that wasn't singing happiness to me, I don't know what is. It was awesome. So as you dive into this episode, I hope you really listen for those nuggets of gold that she shares. She also talks about how she doesn't believe in writer's block. I know, very cool. She also talks about, you guys, those of you who are entrepreneurs, you have that dreaded newsletter, right? The newsletter you freaking hate that you don't want to deal with. She has some really cool ways to make that joyful. I'm not even kidding. I know, I didn't make it up. I know y'all deal with it. It's a real thing. She made it super easy. Listen for that. All right. So without further ado, let's get to it. Here's Jacq. The Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm really happy to have you on today. I think we have some writers who are going to be really interested in what you have to share.
Yay. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So can we just go right at, like, I think the biggest issue most people have is they sit down to write and they're like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to say. I can't. What are the biggest struggles most people face? I know almost everybody listening has in the back of their head, I should write a book, and they're not, right? So what the heck's going on? What happens there?
Yeah, such a great question. Even if it's not a book, I should be writing something. I need to write something. I need to write a social post. I can't write it.
Yes.
The blanking cursor is taunting me. All those things.
It's so mean.
Yeah. The very first thing I usually suggest, and it's interesting that you say it's you too, is I would ask if you are an internal processor or an external processor. So do you get to answers by talking things out, or do you prefer to journal? And you can go both ways.
Oh my gosh, I wish I knew the answer to that. I don't know. What if you're in the middle? Because there's sometimes, I'll like colleagues and be like, I'm thinking of this or that. What do you think? Yeah. And then other times I'm like, nobody talk to me. I'm figuring something out. Yeah. Oh no, I'm in the middle. But like, how does somebody know which one they are?
Play with both. Try to see what works best for you. So you also keep in mind, writing and editing are two very different things. So when it comes to writing, if you are taking pen to paper or fingers to Google Doc. The goal is to get it out, just out of you as fast as possible. I call it the shitty first draft, the
Love
SFD. Like, it is supposed to suck. It is going to be total crap. Expect to come to the page writing a whole bunch of garbage.
it.
Anything you've ever read anywhere, a book, a blog, a newsletter, that's never someone's first draft.
Thank you for that.
Just know. So also, it's so easy to go into it and edit as we go along, which can slow you down. You start overthinking, perfectionist tendencies take over, and then leads to us procrastinating and not wanting to do it at all.
You're here.
Knowing that, writing fast if you prefer to write, and play with both ideas. The other way I love to have people approach the page if they're worried about it or struggle with that blank page is to use a talk to text app and use a voice note to get a transcription. One of my favorites is Otter, OTTER.ai. And I believe you get 6 months free, or not 6 months, 6 hours. 6 hours of transcription free, which is huge. That is so much time. It does other cool things like integrates with Zoom and can transcribe podcasts and recordings and all that stuff. And it's pretty good.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So it's pretty accurate, you're saying too. Like,
yes.
Okay. So you can use that and actually, wow, what a way for people to get through quote unquote writer's block.
Yeah.
Talk it out.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
So doing that, I can talk out a blog post in like a 5-minute walk. Now, I'm also an internal processor. I like to write. And I spend a lot of time staring at a screen, and I don't want to be on the computer all the time. So if I want to talk something out, or I'm not totally sure what I think about something, I just go and just babble, ramble, whatever. And then you have all these words there ready to edit, which makes it so much easier, because then you're playing with a whole other part of your brain. You're editing instead of trying to come up with something or create something.
So is it legitimately a different side of the brain that does the editing versus the writing?
I think so. Don't quote me on that.
You're like, Sarah, dang it.
I've heard some things.
But I can see that because one is creation, right? And the other is almost critiquing, right? I feel like it is almost more mathematical, right? Like it feels more analytical because you're looking at it going, ooh, that word there, this word there, move that there, do this. Whereas one is more of a creative process. It feels more artistic. I don't know. I could have just made that up myself.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's headed in the right direction. That's the approach that I understand too.
Don't analyze brains. How about that?
Yeah. Right. And in that, you are like, you might not want to sit down and focus and edit something. Like your brain might be just being, so this ties into the female cycle. If you have a cycle, the moon, looking to that, if you don't have a cycle, and you might find there's certain times of the month that you are just so creative. You have a billion ideas. You don't know where to focus. Those are the times where I do a lot of really fast draft writing. And then I revisit it later when I have that focus and it's easier. So it's like a kind of batch in weeks to get it all done. That's very
cool. So you have to know yourself well enough to know where those different points are for you individually. But I mean, I think every single one of us who've ever had a cycle ever understand there are times you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't stop the ideas from coming out. They're just coming. And you're saying that's the time to do the quote unquote shitty first draft. Just get it out.
If you can. So and it definitely takes some time to get the hang of. Simply start noticing, like when you're sitting down to write, what do I feel like writing? Do I even want to do this? There's also, I can go on so many other tangents there. Are you writing about things that you actually care about or are excited about? And that can feel hard if you're writing about stuff that you're like, I feel like I should write this because SEO wants me to do this. Like
the SEO gods have descended and say, that's tough. Yeah.
And then when you do that, you're not gonna get writing that feels good. And a lot of business owners I see like push to get a newsletter out or something, for instance, or like, I need to publish a newsletter. I have to get it out. So they force it. Force the topic. They didn't really want to write it. And then it doesn't land with their audience.
Right.
It's like crickets. But if they're fired up about something, they're excited, they want to share something, or it's like, I'm so inspired, I just need to get this out. And they feel really good when they're writing it, fire it out. Even though that process took them perhaps maybe so much less time, about
Mhm.
5 minutes, as opposed to like forcing and sweating through something that took hours to write. And like, why
Yeah.
didn't anybody like it? Well, because the energy wasn't there. You
I mean,
weren't into
but
it.
that's a real thing, Jacq. I mean, that is like a real, I mean, what do you say to entrepreneurs who are going through that, right? Because they have obnoxious business coaches like me saying, be consistent, right? We're like, you got to be consistent. Your audience is waiting for you. They're expecting to hear from you,
Yeah.
right? Because they are.
Yep.
So what do we do with that? Yeah, we turn to you and go, Jacq, help. What do we do?
Great question. And I'm a fan of consistency too, because showing up regularly for your audience is like, hey, I'm here. So
Yeah.
that's where a couple things test some things that work out best for you, but knowing where your energy is, batching. So I have a handful of drafts that are almost there, ready to go. So if I don't have a new idea, and I also like to write in the moment, I want to be
Mm.
timely. I want to write newsletters that are like, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Like, whereas, so last year, anyone who did a lot of batching, and then March 2020,
Yes.
and everyone
Yes.
had to like pause all their social posts, pause everything.
Mhm.
One of my clients was 3 months ahead, which sometimes that's amazing.
Wow. Oh, I just got chills. I don't even know what that's like. I've never been 3 months ahead, guys. Fully transparent here.
No,
Wow.
neither have I. So I like suggesting to have a loose plan. So have a rough idea of what you're going to talk about. Like you probably advise people as you're backing into a launch, how are you going to warm them up, doing all that good stuff. And then if you get a question from someone, or the same 3 people ask you the same question in a week, that's a nudge. Like, write about that.
Mm.
Like
Oh, I love that. I'm a big fan of nudges.
you're just answering someone's question.
I love that. I'm a big fan of nudges. I'm a big fan of nudges. So I love that idea that, okay, so 3 people ask you the same type of question or something similar. That's an idea.
Yeah.
I love that idea. What a great way to write. That sounds so much more effortless than damn it, I gotta write the stupid list.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I coach people for a living. I hear that newsletter is a big struggle for a lot of people. So it sounds like there is sort of almost like a soft batching going on. And you said you have 4 or 5 sort of loosely in the bank, as it were. So you
Exactly.
can stay relevant and current as you need. But if you're having a month of like, oh my gosh, there are no words in my brain, you can at least go to the bank and pull out one of those.
Yes. So having
Okay.
that bank is great. Also keeping a big list of all the things you might want to write about. So those are things like, oh, I'd love it if you talked more about this. And if you're not feeling it, add it to the list. Like my list of things to potentially write about is at about 100 things right now. And I also haven't looked at it in months
That's
because I haven't
amazing.
needed to, because other things have come up.
I see.
And think of all the other things that people are constantly asking you. You do a
Mhm.
podcast interview, you do a Q&A with your group or something like that.
Mhm.
If you get 5 questions, that's 5 pieces of content that you have
Yeah.
in there. So anytime you have a transcription of anything and can take that and repurpose it, rework it, like there's so much.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think becomes I don't know if you've seen this, and Jacq, I'm sure, I mean, the name of your company is like the best name ever, right? Like MOFO. I just love this so much. I've been screaming it from the mountaintops. I think it's so cool. But this idea that like writing for entrepreneurs, I think has become such a thing. Like it's this big chore that gets set. And they're like, I'm an artist, I'm a photographer, I'm a stylist, I just want to help people, I'm an advocate, whatever. All these beautiful women that I get to work with, they're like, I don't write. What is this writing thing I must do all the time? And it becomes this big fat chore for them that I don't think they quite expected when they launched the business. And so they don't know how to do it. And I think one of the things I know you talk about that's really important here, because we're talking about writer's block, we're talking about when people sit down and they just feel like gunk, right? Ugh. And you're saying use the great times in your own cycle, use those moments when you feel really creative, get that shitty first draft out, do those sorts of things, just so great. How do we talk to these entrepreneurs who are terrified to even attempt this and they just want to throw it at a copy editor?
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who wants to do that?
Wait. So write it yourself first.
Really, even though they feel
Yes.
like they're just crappy. They're just
Yes.
terrible at it. Okay,
Yeah.
say more words.
And think about who's reading your words. Your
Mhm.
audience is not reading your newsletter to try to find grammar mistakes or typos. They're reading to connect. Like this is not, I don't know, 10th grade English. That's not what it's about. And
I
as
mean,
a
Mrs.
writer,
Myers is not going to be grading my newsletter.
if she is,
Whew, she was mean, man. Okay. No, but
if
that's
she
good.
is, then, and she's your ideal client, then
Then it's fine.
maybe. But if anyone points out your mistakes, they're
Yeah.
probably not your client. And I am a big fan of throwing the grammar rules out the window because they don't matter nearly as much as we give them so much credit. The point is to connect.
Okay.
Using words that your audience uses. And it's like a reflection back. So you're having a conversation with someone, they're telling you all the things they're struggling with, all the things that they want, and you're going to respond to them. I hear you. I appreciate you saying da 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 da, all those things you just said. So it's not even like you showing up. It's you reflecting back what your audience wants. So even
Okay.
as a done for you copywriter, the very first thing I want to know about the business owner I'm working with is tell me about your clients. What do they
Right.
say? What do they say to you when they first meet you and are looking for help? What do they think they need help with? And then coaches, you're experts. You know what they really need, but that's not like that's not where they are yet. So it's meeting them where they are. And if writing is not like, it's just not happening, try video. Recording
Oh,
a quick video, and then you can always just put bullets, like here's what was in the video for both people. Like
oh my
whatever
gosh,
way is
that's
going to be most,
brilliant.
yeah, whatever's going to be most comfortable.
Okay. So I think you're saying, let's bottom line this. You're saying have a conversation with people and stop being weird.
Yep. Yep. Well, the other thing that
Can I say that? Is that fair?
Yeah, I really love how you sum that up. The thing that I notice a lot of business owners get trapped in is they're writing for their peers. They're like, what is so-and-so going to think? Like, unless your peers are your clients, who cares? It does not matter. It's like, you do not need to impress them. You don't need to use your fancy industry language. You're using plain, clear, simple words that your people understand.
Here. Oh, I love that. And I find it's not even, sometimes it's colleagues, but I have some of my students and clients will say things like, well, my daughter didn't like it. And I'm like, is your daughter your ideal client? And it's really tough because we love these people, right? And they probably have our best interests at heart too. But it's really about having a conversation with the person we're trying to connect with. It's almost like what I hear you saying is, let's pretend we're at a networking event together and they come up and talk to you. What do you say?
Yeah.
What would that conversation be? How would you connect with them? And I think that's really important. And I do think that's missing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you wouldn't say hi to someone at a networking event and give them 3 run-on sentences about all the things you do and what you love and what your passions are and how you help people.
Well, you could, but they might have like,
It would be like,
run away
whoa.
by the time you're done. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get a drink at the bar. Bye.
Are you still here? Okay, so we don't want to do that to people. I think that's really important. But you're also taking the fear out, is what I hear, Jacq. That's really like the important pieces for all of these entrepreneurs listening to understand. You can take the fear out of this writing, that you're having a conversation, you're connecting with the people that you care about and that you want to work with and that you started all this for in the first place. So it doesn't have to be a chore.
Yeah,
It can be a source of connection.
absolutely. And people are rooting for you. They don't want to see you share crappy things. They want to hear from you. They want what you're going to say.
Oh, I love that. I think that's important. I think we can forget that sometimes. It's like we're always supposed to be so on and so important and, as opposed to like, hey, how's your day going? And if you were to actually sit down and imagine somebody's answer to that, you could probably write the next newsletter post or whatever is, oh, actually, you're probably excited it's Friday, or you're happy that it's Monday morning or whatever, and really connect with them on that level.
Exactly.
Interesting. That's super cool. Yeah. So I hear through many cool people who know you and know me that you have like an amazing backstory of like all of your corporate experience, all of the things that you've gone through. Can you share your story with us? Because I think it's pretty cool.
Ooh, okay. Like, where do
on
I
the
begin?
spot? Hello. Yes.
It's okay. I'll start briefly in childhood. It's a quick one.
When I was two. No,
I
I'm
know.
kidding. Yes, I want to hear it, Jacq. I do.
Yeah. Well, I always grew up as I was a creative kid. I was the one who was drawing, painting. I wanted to grow up and be a rich and famous fashion designer and live in Paris.
Okay. That's a dream I can get behind. That's beautiful. Wow.
So I still want to live in Paris, but I don't want to design clothes anymore. I never
Okay.
went to fashion school. I didn't even apply. Someone must have asked me something once like, how are you going to do that? You don't even know how to sew and it's expensive. And I was like, oh yeah, you're probably right. So I went to business school.
Oh, dream killers. I understand that, but it does. That's how they get squashed right there, right? In those moments when people ask things
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
But I am happy it led you to business school.
Yeah. Which was a totally great thing at the time. So business school, marketing, left school, got a shiny corporate job, climbed the ladder. I was very good at it. Like I just knew what to do. Type A, make it happen, relationships. I was good at all those things. I was mainly working in management consulting. We had big government projects like federal government rolling out pieces of the Affordable Care Act, USDA, like big work.
Yeah.
And we were living in Chicago at the time, and I was back to work after maternity leave. And so this is 12, 13 years ago. And I remember sitting in a meeting and wondering like, is this all there is?
That moment.
Yeah. And it was just, but I didn't have an answer. It was just like, ugh, like this is boring. This isn't important. And
It's not what my life is for.
yeah. And it wasn't that I wanted to be home, like stay-at-home moms. Holy crap.
Hat tip forever. Hat tip forever. Yes,
forever. I don't know how you do it.
Amazing.
I want to stay home forever, and I wanted to work.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer wasn't quit my job and stay home. I wanted to work. I had no idea what to do. Fast forward a couple of months, and I was called into my managing director's office, and I sat down with someone with HR, and it took me an uncomfortably long time to figure out what was happening.
Right. Your question was being answered. Is this really what my life is for? Yeah. Actually, no, Jacq, it's not.
No, it's not. So you are laid off. Here you go.
Wow.
And so that was the first time. Spoiler alert, there were 2 more times. And after that time, it was a blow. It was like, who am I without my corporate identity? Who am I without this job that I need? And well, the money and the health insurance and all those things. And having an almost 1-year-old.
Wow.
So at that time, we were actually thinking of moving to Toronto, where most of my family is from. So we're like, well, instead of me looking for a job here, let's just look for jobs up there. So I did. I got a job with BlackBerry. You can kind of guess where this is going. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, BlackBerry.
Bless you. When they hired me, they were doing fantastic, like private concerts, kind of fantastic. And like paid for me to move. And there I was doing crisis communications. So it was my first formal communications role. It was fun. It was a great job.
Wow.
Stressful at times.
You say crisis communication. I'm like, stress. You're like, it was a blast. Wow. That just shows how good you are at writing.
Maybe not a blast. The people were fun. And there was a really steep learning curve, because I would take whatever was going on with the technical systems from the technical people and try to take that and put it into plain English.
Brilliant.
So that I know how well that would serve me later on. So let's see, in there, I had my daughter up there in Canada, and then kind of same thing, back to work. And I was like, this isn't so great. But I didn't have any alternatives. So, you kind of look for another job. You think it's just another job is going to solve it. And this was around the time that we had totally switched overnight to a plant-based diet. I was like, we're going vegan.
I've done that.
And yes. I'm not anymore. But
okay, that's a switch though. That's tough.
Yeah, it was.
People think, oh, you just change your diet. No. That is like so dramatic.
No,
it's really hard to do.
First, it was dairy. My son had, when he was like 2, he had some like drainage issues, and they wanted to take the tonsils out, put all the tubes in all the places. And I was like, I found a naturopath. She's like, try removing dairy. And so I did, and he's fine.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
And then I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't eat meat either. Okay, let's get rid of meat. So that was when I started a blog. I started a vegan food blog.
Yeah.
And I was writing all the time. I published like a blog a day. And that was
Wow.
also coming from a place though of I need to prove that I have my shit together and I have all this content.
Got it.
Now
Yes.
I would never tell my clients to do that. Don't
Yep.
do that.
Yep. No, I totally
Also, it was
understand.
recipes.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was like really quick writing, like here's a smoothie recipe. So it was not like hours and hours of typing. So I had this food blog and I was like, maybe I could turn this into a business, but I didn't know exactly what kind. So I was blogging, was fired from the job again. And somewhere in there, I discovered the very first book I read on self-development and like doing work you love was Danielle Laporte's Fire Starter Sessions.
Yes. Very
And
cool.
in there, the idea was you could do work you enjoyed and got paid for it. Really?
I know.
This is a
So it's
thing?
amazing when you discover that, right? You have that moment of like, yeah.
Yeah, I had never imagined it. So that seed was planted, but I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I sell recipes? Am I a blogger? Do I make money blogging and put a bunch of ads on my site? Like, what do I do? Didn't know. Just kind of muddled ideas. Do I make hummus and have a hummus business? That was seriously one of my ideas.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. No, absolutely. Some people make a good living doing that. Yes,
Yeah.
it's possible, right?
So after that, we actually moved back to Chicago. My husband had a job opportunity and we were like, okay, well, Canada was good to us. Now we're going back. Went back to my old management consulting company. They were hiring everyone back because they had just won a bunch of new government contracts and we're like, hey,
Nice.
So the whole team was welcome back.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. That must have been kind of fun though, too.
It was definitely fun in the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
And then we lost a bunch of contracts. So
oh my gosh. Jacq, this journey is amazing, but it's also kind of like the universe kept going, Jacq, I don't know how many times I can tell you, dude, you got something to do. Would you just stop it? You got something to do. Would you get out of here? It's like, you're like, no, not yet. I'll get another job. I mean, it's what we all do because we are all raised to think that we're supposed to go do that corporate job, right? Like that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get the health insurance and get the plan and do the 401k. And we're just raised to do that. And it's like, but then every single woman I talk to, even those who were still in their corporate jobs, are like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this really what my life is for? And it sounds like you just kept getting that message over and over, like, no, actually, this isn't what your life is for. But you can try again if you'd like. But nope, not what your life is for. So 3 times.
So 3 times. Each time got easier. Like I knew what to expect and I wasn't upset. So by the third time, the third one, I got a meeting invitation on a Monday afternoon for 2:10 p.m.
Interesting.
A director in a conference room. And I was like, I'm getting fired today.
Wow. So you're like, I know how this works, people.
I know how this works. And like I walked in and it was probably uncomfortable for them, but I was like laughing.
You're like, I'm good.
But I was just like, I've been here. I know what you're going to say. You don't even need to say it. Just tell me how much severance is and when I get it.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I felt free after that third time. Like I skipped home. Skipping, like jumping.
Like literally skipping home.
Literally skipping
like you're
home.
like, okay, do you feel like maybe it was like you got the message that time?
Yeah, I totally did. And yet I was still, at that point, I had taken my food business into earning actual money. I was teaching cooking workshops. I had one-on-one clients. I was helping them design like easy meal plans to just eat more vegetables. Like it was pretty simple. Other busy working moms and working parents who needed help with that. And yet I wasn't quite earning enough that it was going to replace my corporate income. Like just
Got it.
So I couldn't just flip a switch. And we were closing on a house in 5 days.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
A little stressful.
Yeah.
Got another job, another management consulting one. It was one with no travel and it was more of a communications focus. So I was I was writing all the time. And that's when I've also put the food blog aside during that time. And I was like, I need to do something, but I still don't know what it is. So it was 8 years from the time I had that idea or had that nudge in the corporate meeting of to the time that I was like, I'm going to start this business. 8 years. And in putting the food blog aside, because we stopped being vegan, I was like, well, this doesn't make sense anymore. Right. It was the writing I was enjoying. And then it started to click. that's what I was always asked to do in corporate. I wrote the proposals for millions of dollars of work. I was helping people with LinkedIn profiles and resumes and writing internal communications, newsletters. Like I was doing all that stuff, change management communications. Like we're rolling out Salesforce, get the whole company to adopt it. Okay.
Sure.
Persuasive writing, things that I was like, oh, okay. So I decided to grow that business on the side, my writing business, until I had enough momentum to quit. It took about a year and a half.
Okay.
And my quit level was, my husband said, if you earn half of your corporate income on the side,
We can make it work.
we'll make it work.
Yeah.
And I
That's
did.
fantastic. And it's so great too that you had such a clear goal to hit, because I think sometimes that makes people so nervous. It's like, but when do I quit? When do I quit? When do I quit? And it's so great that you guys knew that number together so that everything was really crystal clear, because that it just makes it so much more tangible.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So knowing that that was there, like there was so many other things I did in that time, like to make it work, like scaled back on my hours. Like I don't need to be an A+ corporate employee. I can
That's
be a
right.
B employee and still be amazing. Which
So
like
true.
type A people, I know it's hard, but
It is.
it totally worked.
Yeah.
So in 2021, I celebrated 4 years full time in my business.
Congratulations.
Like,
Congratulations.
thank you.
I mean, that really is what it's all about. And sometimes, everybody's journey is so different on this, where you kind of sort of feel these urges and nudges to like break out on your own, but you're like, and I've gone through those exact same steps you did. My first was a mom blog as well, where it was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. That's all I could say. It was like, there's got to be a better way. And here's how you start a business. And here's how you do this. Like, but that was my beginning steps too. And I think what you're sharing here is so important for other people to hear, that this journey goes so many different ways. And there's no one way to become an entrepreneur. There's no one way to understand what your talents are, right? You have a business school behind you. You have your persuasive writing, Salesforce for all, right? Like you have all that stuff in there. For you to take that now and support other entrepreneurs like this is so cool. I mean, what a way to make it work. I think it's just so great. And congratulations on 4 years. That's wonderful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And even once you become an entrepreneur, you don't stop changing.
Ain't that the truth?
My business has transformed since the time I started, and it's going to. And the point is getting started. Like I spent way too much time in those early days doing all the free worksheets and reading books. And I was like, no, you need to actually go do a thing.
There's no question. Yeah. I tell everybody, I'd rather you like run out and do an Instagram live or a Facebook live and mess it up and find out what people like and what they don't like. It's so much more beneficial than sitting in your room journaling by yourself, trying to imagine what one day you might maybe do. Like it's better to go out there and make mistakes and figure it out. Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's kind of like a shitty first draft. It's kind of the same.
It is. Yeah.
Like so at least we get it out, right? That's so cool. So I understand that you recently book in 20 minutes, was it that you did this? No, can you tell us what you just did? This is so cool. I love this story.
The book was a 3-year.
I want to hear about the book.
The book was a 3-year project. Oh, a little over 3 years.
No.
So I wrote the first draft really fast in November. I forget what year now, 2017, I think. During November, which is NaNoWriMo, or National Novel Writing Month. And it's a writing challenge.
That's so cool. I did not know that existed.
It was fun. It's a really good way to write quickly and develop a daily writing habit if that's something you want to do. So and the challenge is to write 50,000 words in 30 days, which is like 1,600 words-ish a day.
Okay.
So it's a lot.
But that's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's fast writing. So remember, writing and editing are very different. So writing is just get it out, move on. So I did that. And then I let it sit for a whole year because I was like, I don't even know if I like this. So it just sat. The next November, a year later, for NaNoWriMo, I revisited it and started making edits, just kind of playing with it, moving stuff around, cleaning it up. And like my shitty first draft writing is, you can hardly read it. It's like sentences are incomplete, incorrect words. Everything is misspelled. Like it's a true mess. So I spent a month cleaning it up, and then I hired an editor, help me make sense of this, which
is smart. Yes.
So essential. Editors are amazing. like you need one in your life,
Yeah. Well, I think
especially
it's
for a
so,
book project.
well, it's almost like it's like so many other things in our lives, right? Where somebody else's perspective, when someone comes in with fresh eyes, they can see so many cool things that we missed, or they can see if you just move something here or rearrange that, that it turns into something incredible that we can't see because we're used to it being the way that we did it.
Yeah,
And so I could totally see that for an edit, especially one like that. So sat for a year,
exactly. It's
you
that
cleaned
for
it
a
up for a
year.
month, and then you hired an editor.
Yep. And it was the first draft of the book was self-development. It was all like me sharing advice. And it was
Okay.
all like, so the title hadn't changed at the time. The title's Unfussy Life. And it was life advice to just live more unfussy, less stuff. So it was also about how I moved so many times, like to Canada and back, 4 states, now 5, because I moved since I finished the book. And in all those lessons, like downsizing, upsizing, getting laid off, identifying with your job, living simply, social media, like all the things that are just weighing on our minds. And so editor really helped me reorganize and shape the book. And then I met an intuitive at a business event.
Oh, intuitives are not usually at business events, are they? That's kind of, I like this combo.
She's an intuitive for business owners.
Oh, how fun.
So really great. And
Very
I
cool.
had a conversation with her a couple months later, and there was 2 things in there. So one was a lot of copywriting clients that were coming to me were intuitives or healers or something like in that arena, which I
Interesting.
was not into or aware of, or like, what? So I asked her, I'm like, why are all these people coming to me? She's like, because they know you're intuitive too. I'm like, I am. So all those nudges along the way, like,
Yes.
oh, so lots of dot connecting. So I had a conversation with her later, and she's like, tell me about your book. So I'm telling her about it, and she's like, oh, it's advice, it's self-help to help people do this. And she's like, I don't think you're gonna like this, but your book is a memoir. And
Oh my gosh.
I was like, it is? I was like, who wants to read a memoir from me? Like, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
Nobody
feel like that's
cares.
everybody's question, right? There's so many people I have this conversation with as well, Jack. I love that you're sharing this because people are like, who's going to read my book?
Yeah.
Such the great question. So what'd she
Yeah.
say?
She's like, it's a memoir. She's like, I see it being a lot of work. And when you're done, it's going to be like a big golden book.
Wow.
I was like, okay. And I didn't do
Okay.
anything with that information right away. I was like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really believe her. I was like, yeah, she's wrong. Um, and then when I went back to my editor's comments, all her comments throughout the book were, I really liked your personal story here. Add a personal story here. Can you add more of like what you believe about this now? I'm like, oh shit, it is a memoir.
Like, ding, ding, ding. Wow, that's really neat. But that's so cool that that kind of clicked for you because you
Yeah,
had the non-intuitive advice, right? From the editor, just like, hey, here's my bird's eye view of this. This is what can
yeah,
make this better. And then someone coming in totally from the other side with a totally different perspective, saying the exact same thing. It's very cool when that happens.
absolutely.
And you
So,
listened.
yeah, I did. And then so I rewrote a good chunk of it. A lot of the original stuff is still in there. It just the perspective changed a little bit because I realized all the advice I'd written was because of something I had learned firsthand. So I backed up in the book, like I'd start a little bit in childhood. And then the theme that came through was change. How we navigate change, how we embrace change. And my original plan was to finish the book and have it published in 2020. And then, well, 2020 happened.
Mhm.
And now I know that 2021 is the perfect time for it to come out because 2020 was a year that change happened to us. And
Correct.
2021, I'm seeing so far, people are choosing change and
Absolutely.
they're making things happen. So
Mm.
the timing is perfect.
Yeah, I got chills. And I literally, as you were talking, I was thinking this is the perfect time for this book to come out. Like, I can't think of a better time for a book on change and proactive change and thoughtful change and intentional change to come out because what you're saying is spot on. And I'm hearing it across the board from people saying, love all my friends. I don't want to be friends with everybody anymore. I
Yeah.
love my job. I'm not going back to that job. I love my business that I run. I am changing it completely. In fact, I'm one of those people too, where it's like, I'm not doing that part anymore. I want to do this part. And I'm seeing it in health. I'm seeing it in fitness. I'm seeing it in families. I'm seeing it in marriages. I'm seeing it in business. And I think it's going to be really a helpful tool for a lot of people, Jacq. It's just amazing that you took the time to listen, you did the hard work, you wrote it in a month, right? Like you got all of it out. Then
Yeah,
then you
kind
did the different work, right? The
Yeah.
editorial work.
Yeah.
And then you went back and rewrote it again. So it's like that. The joke is, it was 20 minutes, 3 years, right? It's like, come on,
Yeah.
you guys. Like sometimes when you birth something this awesome, it has its own timeline, almost like your 8 years. It sounds like that had its own timeline too, for you to get what you needed, to learn what you needed to learn, obviously to make the income you were making at the same time, and then learn how you could turn this into a business. I think what an extraordinary gift to give all of us from your journey, to pass this on to all of us in 2021, when it's so needed for us to understand how to make these changes and what it looks like for us and what these challenges that come up and how we can deal with them. It's very cool. It's a great story, Jacq.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate
Very
that.
cool. Yeah. Well, I'm just so excited to have had you on. I think this is going to be one of those podcasts. I think sometimes people have to go back and go, I'm going to listen to that again, because that's how I'm feeling today. Or, dang that, Jacq, I'm writing my stupid first draft and the guy got to go listen to her tell me to do it again. So important.
Yeah, there are so many tricks to getting started. I could go on. I could do a whole episode about getting started, because it's hard. There's resistance in everything.
All right, well, before we go, can you give us one tip on getting started? I think people are like, now they're like pounding on their earphones going, wait, tell us one.
Yeah. Creating a habit or ritual for before you write. So that can also be like writing in different places. Like I wrote my book on the couch, book writing on the couch, business work at my desk. So if you're writing something different, changing your perspective, and then like bringing in a ritual. So a ritual can be as simple as like I put on my mint smelling lip balm, and when I smell mint, it's time to write. Or lighting a candle, or like set your coffee down. So like those visual, sensual.
Well, I think smell is definitely locked, like to memories and ideas and stuff for sure. I had never thought of that. I've done candles and I've done lotion.
Yep.
I'm digging the lip balm though.
And
that's
sound.
Very cool.
Sound can work too.
Sound. Okay. So what sounds do you use?
I wrote a mini book a couple of years ago, and to do that, I played one song on repeat, like over and over and over. So as soon as I heard that song, it was like my body knows it's time to write.
Okay, I have a really weird question for you about that song. Did that song have words in it?
Yeah, it did.
Was it instrumental? Okay.
It did. So it depends on what you're writing. Sometimes writing with words is not a good thing, but if it's like the vibe of what you're going for, creating a playlist and having a playlist of like all those songs you like to write to, even if you just go to Spotify and look for writing music, like you can play with it and find some ideas in there.
That's super cool. I believe that. I think that I could see that being really helpful. Yeah, I do have a hard time with words myself, like writing and listening to words. Like I watch my kids with their homework. I'm like, how do you do? Like I've never been able to do it. If there's words, I start singing or whatever.
It's instrumental.
No, but I can get the vibe though. I mean, there are definitely some songs that, put me in a mood or in a vibe. So I can totally understand that. That's really helpful. I'm glad I asked. That's a really good tip. So you guys, if you would like to check out, as you make all your changes in 2021, there is a link to Jacq's book in the show notes. So check that out for sure, because I think we're all going to need a little bit of help with that this year coming up. There's so much that we all have to take on. But Jacq, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so glad that we got to talk about all this and help more people get writing.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.